guys, welcome back to Laddie's Garage for episode 5 of the SS build. I know in the last video I did say that we'll be putting the gearbox, the turbo 400 on the engine and all that, and I was super pumped, ready to go to do that. I was starting to get all the parts out ready and get ready to go, converter, flex plate, and I thought, oh, I'll quickly jump in the engine bay and give it a degrease and clean it up, ready to go. Started gurneying, and there's just paint flaking off everywhere. At some stage it's actually had some sort of a battery failure. I'll show you. So at some stage that battery's failed in there, and I've degreased it and started cleaning it up, and this paint's just flying off everywhere. So you know, I didn't really want to make this video, but I thought, oh, it's progress, so I'll make a quick episode on engine bay prep and paint. We'll tidy all this up and then we'll get stuck into putting that motor in. But you can also see all the K-frame, it chewed all the paint on the K-frame. Now I've been in there and sanded that up and washed it and sanded it a bit to get rid of all the loose paint. And yeah, we'll just go through step by step on how to clean this up, just in case it's happened to use and you just need to do a bit of clean up in your engine bay. Everywhere else it looks premium, it looks good, cleaned up all nice. And then yeah, you can just see the battery tray, which I took out, completely rusted, but that's all good. I'm not worried about cleaning that up because the intercooler pipe eventually will come down through here, so it's just a matter of cleaning this up. And I also thought to myself, looking around of course, what else can I do? And this ugly bracket here, I think I'm going to take that off while I'm there, because I'm going to be splashing some paint in around here, and I thought I'll grind the spot welds off this and get rid of this ugly bracket, and get rid of this wire obviously. Battery's going to be in the boot, so all that subwoofer wire will be in the back. So we'll be able to get rid of this ugly bracket. This washer bottle is going to be gone because there's the intercooler pipe, like I said, is going to go down there, so that'll be in the way. So that bit there will be really seen, so it'll be nice to clean that up as well. So yeah, what I might do to start off is just take the headlight out, take that washer bottle out and move that wire out, and I'll give you a close look at that bracket and how we're going to get rid of it without causing any major damage to that guard. Alright, we'll start down low, down on this washer bottle. You'll see on the inner guard there's a bolt there. Also on the front here there's this bolt here that holds it in, and you'll also have to undo the little tube that goes up to the windscreen to the sprayers, little plug to the little motor. And also on this inner guard plastic here, there's a little screw that goes through there that bolts through this tab here. That frees up the washer bottle. Then you got the headlight, one in the bottom there, one in the top, and one in the front, all 10 mils. And also obviously undo the indicator and the main bulb loom out of the back of the headlight, and they'll all pop out. You can see I've already got rid of that crappy fuse. So I'll just pull this out and we'll continue. Now with all that out of the way, you can start to see the extent of all the damage. It's a fair bit of work to be done here to tidy that up. There's no way I could ever leave that. So washer bottle's gone, headlight's out, and then there's some plastic clips that hold this loom into the back there. I undid them and pulled that whole loom up, so I can get in amongst here and try and get some primer and paint up in around there to cover all that bare steel. Also just jimmied this wire, all the wires up out of the way to try and clear the surface. Unplugged the ABS module. That's just a tab that you pull up on. Then there was an ABS wire, ABS sensor wire that I unplugged, and then poked the excess wire back out the hole to clear up the area so I can paint up all in there. And now we can get started on this bracket that I was talking about that I want to get rid of. Now you can see this whole bracket, this whole spiny ugly looking thing, is simply to hold that part of the fuse box up. Now I know from the tonner build that does not have to be there. It happily hangs there off the bolt that's there and the bolt that's in the back. So that's just excessive. So what I'm going to do is go through, and I don't know if you can see in the camera, but there's these little indents, and they're the spot welds. I'm going to go through with my Dremel and carbide bit and just gently grind them down until it pops free. Now if I do it nice and gently and don't go too deep, I should be able to get that bracket off without actually damaging the inner guard. So I'll be able to take the whole bracket off and then just give the inner guard a bit of a flapper wheel, hopefully a bit of high build primer, and get away with putting no massive amounts of bog or anything like that in there. So what I'll do is I'll show you the tool that I use before I get you set up on a tripod. But I'll do one on the tripod to see how gentle, but this is just a carbide bit in an air grinder, really, air Dremel grinder. And it'll be just a matter of going to these spot welds one by one and just buzzing it, rubbing it, and you'll see this bracket will get thin, and then it'll just let go. But I'll see if I can get you set up and we'll get into it. Okay, let's try a little bit of voiceover. Last thing you want to hear is the sound of this Dremel grinder. You can see that I've changed a bit to a more rounded style carbide bit, and I'm just slowly working my way just around the outside of where you can see the spot weld, just taking out the thickness of that outside plate. You do not want to go in too deep and start taking material out of the inner guard, otherwise you're going to have to bog it up. So yeah, we'll move on and do the rest. Now you can see I've just got the grinder and just cut that tab off to free up the bottom of this bracket, and I'm just grabbing the pliers and just slowly bending backwards and forwards, and it'll just slowly start popping the really fine amount of steel left over around those spot welds. And you can see slowly but surely it'll just free itself up. Just keep working it backwards and forwards. You don't want to go too brutal that you start bending the inside of the guard, so keep an eye on it, but yeah, you get the idea. Just, you know, metal going backwards and forwards slowly gets weaker and weaker. And sure as hell, eventually it'll just let go. Might have bumped you there, but yeah, there you go. You can see just taking the metal out around the bracket. And there's no, I haven't actually gone in too far on any of them. Oh, actually that one there might be, but yeah, overall, pretty happy with that. So I'll get this little tab out of there. It's just, you pull the fuse cover off, you just pull this little tab and that'll come out. And you can see that's still solid. It's got a mount up the top there. And mount here. It really doesn't need that. The guys at GM must have been scared. But yeah, I am a little bit spewing that these two holes here from that stupid subwoofer bracket, they put long screws in. Now they've gone all the way through and put two holes in my guard. So I'm going to have to do something about that. I don't know if I'll worry about welding them or I'll just punch it in and then skim a little bit of bog on it maybe. But yeah, I'll get the flapper wheel out now and tidy these up, and we'll have another look at it. Okay, you can see I've already flapper wheeled a couple of them. I thought I'd show you. Just a nice light grit flapper wheel in your grinder, and just give it a rub. I am going to rub the two little holes as well, because it's just quicker and easier for me just to quickly weld them holes up. Now after flapper wheeling them, I don't know if you can really see, but very low impact left in the steel. I think they will need a light skim with filler. Maybe some couple of coats of high build might work as well, but you can see just going, oh there's a good one, you can see there's just a little bit of a mark left from the spot weld just to fill up. Nothing too hectic. The biggest letdown was that whoever installed the subwoofer put an extra long screws in, it's gone through and made these holes. And they must have pushed pretty hard on this one because it's actually dented here a little bit too, so I might have to get underneath and try and panel beat that out after I weld it. Give it all a bit of a skim. So I'll set the welder up now and we'll fill those holes up. Okay, I got the trusty Bock MIG set up, low voltage, moderate wire speed because we're going to be building around the hole, so I'll get you set up. You can actually watch me weld, but it's just a matter of doing a series of tiny little tacks. It'll probably only take 3 tacks per hole, but just 3 little tacks around each hole just to fill that up and build it up high so I can flapper wheel it back flat. We'll set you up and get into it. Okay, they're welded up and now I can just flapper wheel them back. Okay, it's all welded up, flapper wheeled smooth. This hole here was in a little bit of a dip, so I couldn't get it exactly smooth, but I've also given it a little bit of a tap here and there, any high spots, to give it a feel for any high spots and tap them down. And now I've got some 120 dry sandpaper. I'm just going to sand this whole area nice and coarse, because I'm going to give it a smear with some filler, some bog, and yeah, I'll come back when I'm ready to put some bog on. Okay, I just had a slight camera malfunction, but I did mix up this body filler, mixed it up, got my putty knife. That was after I sanded it, of course. Sanded it, wax and grease removed it, pushed the car outside, and just give it a nice smear. I thought I filmed it on the tripod, but didn't press the button correctly. That'll happen sometimes. But anyway, smeared it on nice and high. It's heaps too much on there. Then we'll just sand it back, sand all the low spots. Sorry, sand all the high spots, and should fill all the low spots and be nice and smooth. So I'm going to give that a bit of time to go off before I sand it, obviously, and we'll come back after I've given it a sand. Okay guys, I used a bit of 80 grit to get most of that bog down to a nice level. It's actually surprising the low points in that. I've taped it all up, wax and grease remover, and scuffed it all back. After I used the 80 to get the bulk of the bog down, I went to a 240 and scuffed everything up so it would stick. Now I'm going to use 2 different primers. I'm about to prime it. I'll use this high build primer, which is still alright for a bit of bare metal up over the bog for the first coat. Don't want to go too thick, just one coat, a nice thin coat at a time. But then for the slightly rusty surfaces, even though I've sanded it, it's still got a rusty sort of finish to it, I'm actually going to use a super etch primer epoxy base so it really sticks to that crappy rusty surface. So a couple of different primers I'm going to go through, and I'll just get that painted. I won't film that. When we come back to do the finished sort of primer coat, then I might film that. I put 2 coats of the high build up over the bog and it's come up good. I've got you on a pretty poor camera angle, but I need to be able to get in there to do this next bit of spray painting. So one thing I did do is between coats I give it a bit of a slight go over with the heat gun, just to help it go off a little bit quicker. So now I'm actually going to give it the colour spec primer, prime all of it in the same primer. This is the stuff they recommend to put underneath the paint, so I'll give this a nice coat over and one step closer to paint. I think the key is just not too thick. Oh, and this stuff comes out thick. But I just want to cover all the other primer so it's all matching. And even looking at that now, like I haven't even sanded that high build, and that looks so good. I'm pretty happy with that. I've never fluked it that well before. That's really good. Just try and get in there and get it all. But you get the idea. Now I'll give you a closer look. It's come out really good. Sealed it all up. Just got all the way in the back there. Actually got a little bit of paint on the wires there, but you can always get a little bit of thinners and rub the paint off. Just blended it all in underneath there. So yeah, seal it all up and try and tidy it up. Now I'm going to let that sit all night, go right off. Then we'll catch back up tomorrow morning and give it a really light sand and throw some paint at it. so that it can sit during the day, during the warmth of the day, and the paint can go off really nice. So we'll yeah, catch up tomorrow morning. Alrighty guys, next morning. Beautiful clear day out here today. I've actually had the SS out in the sun so this can really bake. Now I've gone through with a little bit of 240 and given it a rub up just to take the sort of orange peel effect out of that primer that I sprayed yesterday. Also undid a lot of the taping that used to come around here, moved the ABS module off to the side so that now we can get a nice blend and overspray past the primer line, if you know what I mean, so that you can guarantee to cover all of the primer. So you can see I'm just back in the red now, so I'll actually end up dusting the red up into there. In under the bottom here you get a lot of that dried up overspray from the primer, so I made sure I got the 240 under there. All in under the bottom here there's a bit of dried up overspray, rub all that back. Been through, wax and grease it all. I'm just waiting for that wax and grease to go off, so the next step is going to be a coat of paint. Now I've just gone to Super Cheap with my colour code and they just make the paint and press it into this colour can. I've never really done it like this before, so we'll just see how it goes. Hopefully it's a pretty good match. One thing I will say is most of this, when you've got a turbo LS set up in an engine bay like this, it's so busy in here that you only really see through and see parts of it anyway, so you know, I'm not overly stressed about it being showroom quality or anything like that, but it's just nice to tidy it up rather than have all that destroyed paint from that battery acid. So I'll shake this can up, set you up on the tripod and get a bit of a time lapse of laying some red on. Righto guys, we're ready to start putting some paint on. The only real tip that I have, well there's a couple of tips, shake the crap out of the can because you want to make sure that paint's nicely mixed up. And also I like to start on all the hard bits first. So work on everything that's in there hard in around this back lip, and then when you get all that done then work on the main bits, because sometimes the different angles that you get can load up the paint. You don't want it run, so there's no specific way of doing it I suppose, but yeah, it's definitely poke around in the hard bits first and then come back and bulk out the easy bits last for sure. Obviously try not to paint everything that's black, that'll help, but yeah, we'll get there. So I might end up putting my back and my shoulder to you, but it's just what has to happen. Just getting the back lip here at the start, pretty important. Okay, I just cleaned out the can by tipping it upside down, but after the first coat you can see Just poke up in underneath the edges there. Try and blend it over the top of this bracket here. Once that ABS goes in, you're not going to see it where it's blended. Try and get in under the lip. And yeah, it's for a first coat, that's come up really good. Obviously we've got to overspray down on the K-frame, but I'm going to come back later, take that off and then paint this black. So yeah, we'll give that 5-10 minutes, flash off, and we'll give it a second coat. I have pushed the car back outside into the sun because I just finished the second coat, probably the final coat. It's looking pretty glossy. It goes off a little bit, goes a little bit matte when the paint starts going off. But as for the colour match, a little bit worried about it. Not that I'm going to change it, but it doesn't look exactly the same. It looks a little bit brighter. Maybe once all the tape's off and we move all the accessories back in the way and time goes on, a few greasy hands lean against it and we polish up the other side, I think it'll end up matching good enough, that's for sure. It's definitely a heap better than what it was, that's for damn sure. So I'm going to let that go off, and then once it's gone hard enough, I'm going to tape the bottom up and we can paint the K-frame black. Just thought I'd give you a little bit of an update. We'll let it go off and catch back up. Okay, it has been sitting out here for a few hours now. I just went through and dusted through some gloss black kill rust paint over the top of the K-frame to tidy it up, and it's looking quite good. I've pulled all the tape off, and it is probably still a tiny bit tacky, so I don't want to let all the wires hang down yet and lay on the paint, so I'm going to let it sit like that overnight, maybe for a couple of nights. So yeah, the colour probably is a little bit out. You can see a little bit up here, like where the tape line is, the difference in the two colours, but I think once it fully goes off and I'll give everything a bit of a polish with car polish, everything, all the wires and hoses and engine and everything goes in, I don't think it's going to be noticeable, so I'm going to let it go. I think it'll be fine. So yeah, that'll pretty much wrap up that little job. Okay, that'll probably wrap up this episode. Bit of a painful job. Cleaning up that battery acid is pretty well done. While I was waiting for all the paint to dry, I wasn't just wasting time. I actually did get a lot of episode 6 started and on its way, so definitely look out for the next one. We're definitely putting Turbo 400 on the LS motor and getting it ready to go in here, get it in the car. I'm waiting for another couple of parts. That's the only reason why I can't get episode 6 sorted straight away, but where we might do a bit of night shift during the week after work and do some filming and get this engine in for the next episode. As for this episode or any of these builds, if you like it, hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more. Hit the bell if you want to be notified when my next video is out. So yeah, that'll pull us up for today, and I hope you all had a good weekend, and we'll catch up on the next one. Catch us later.